say anything. If I fall off the stage, it's your fault. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can I ask you to take your seats, please, if you're loitering for the end session Q&A. He's just driving back from London. Hence, you've got me for the start-up, but you'll see all of these lovely people over the course of the evening. And it's really important, our trustees, we are here for governance and oversight, ultimately legally accountable for the charity incorporated organisation element of our church. And finally, before I hand over, can everybody lift up their copy of the annual report to make sure everybody's got one? Those who haven't, you know who you are. There's loads at the back. Please help yourself. This has been really well put together by Amy, Jo and Rosie, so thank you to them. And there's lots of good information in here. Please have a read through it. It may answer some of your questions over the course of the evening. So without further ado, I'll invite Adam and Rosie to come on up.
Excellent. Lovely to see you all. I'm going to talk briefly about where we're at as a church. But I want to start just by saying how delighted I am about where I feel this church is at the moment. I do feel, yes, there's challenges, yes, there's things we need to solve, there's progress we want to make, like we're not settling, but it does feel like we're in a pretty healthy place as a church in many ways. Over the last, I think a lot of that is down to really the focus over the last couple of years on renewal. I think that was something we felt God was talking to us about. It was a very specific focus that we wanted to make, that we knew our community arm, as it were, the muscles in our community arm were really well developed. And we felt like we needed to do some work on the spiritual renewal aspect of YCC, of ourselves and of the people who are coming through. And I think we have seen new people every single week since September 2024. We have seen so many stories of transformation and renewal, stories of people who never been to church before, finding their way through the doors and coming to faith, often on their first Sunday through the doors. Sometimes within the first 15 minutes of coming through the doors. We have seen people who've found themselves here because they had a dream where someone told them to come. We have heard of people coming here because they heard a voice that told them they were supposed to come here. We have had people coming here just because they had a real strong sense that this is something they were supposed to do on that particular day. There was someone just a couple of weeks ago got woken up at 4 a.m. and told, you need to go to church this morning for the first time in maybe 20 years. And we're seeing these stories all the time. We're seeing renewal all the time, but we're also seeing renewal in those of us who maybe have been a Christian for a long time. I think we're seeing a renewed passion for Scripture. We're seeing a renewed passion for Jesus. We're seeing a renewed focus, maybe, engagement. I think so excited to see how many people have been in the ID groups over the last year. And so there's so much, I think, to be encouraged by, to be excited by, and to see this kind of balancing and strengthening, not that we are good at community, but actually seeing a greater connection between what we do in the community and who we are as we worship Jesus as a worshiping community, and seeing stronger connections between those two areas of the church, I think has been really healthy. As we said we were going to focus on renewal for 2 years, and as we get to September, it will have been 2 years. And so what we're going to do is have a different focus moving forward. That doesn't mean we expect the renewal to stop. I think that will continue. That feels like it has momentum to it. But we're going to focus on discipleship moving forward. We're going to kind of zoom out from one of our vision statements, and we're going to look at the whole 365 of our mission, vision, values. And that's, we've been talking about that as a leadership team. We've been thinking about that as a strategy team. What does that look like? How do we do that? How does that impact what we do on a Sunday, but also how does that impact what we do on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday? How does that impact every area of the church? And Rosie has been trying to pull that together in a form that we can communicate to you and go, this is going to be our focus as we move ahead. We're not going to put a 2-year time limit on this. We think it will probably run for longer than 2 years. It means our teaching series, all 3 are going to come to an end by July, and we will launch new teaching from September, focused around discipleship. It means a change of focus, how we're going to engage and the things you're going to hear, etc., on a Sunday, but it also means a change of focus and a change of focus and a greater intensity across the whole area of the church. So, Rosie, do you want to expand that idea for us?
Skip that bit. Okay, so R365 will hopefully not be a new concept to people, but we felt probably more recently that we've actually lost a little bit of momentum with R365. This has been language that we've used for 5-6 years now. But because we've been focused on like a specific area of it, we've probably lost the holistic view of it. And so this is just a reminder of what R365 is. Our mission is to live out faith, hope, and love in our community. So that's the 3. Our values, which is these 6, is story, connection, relationship, generosity, transformation, and creativity. And then our vision, so the values, what we've done is we understand that some of these are very YCC language. So what we've tried to do is expand our visions to give like a little caption and try and incorporate some of what that means so that when people see a value of story, they actually can understand it in a really, really small caption way. We are going to have further information and documents that expand on that much wider for kind of our church community and our leaders and trustees and the people who really need to understand it. But we want people to be able to come into our building, to be able to just get a snapshot of who we are through a very, very quick experience of being here or seeing something on the wall, or we want to be able to be known really, really quickly. And some of my experience of being here in the building since November is that we get a lot of people who think we are a community centre. That's the experience of when they come in. And so you'll realise at Spruce Up Saturday, we did some of the reception. That will expand further, and we will have language on the walls to say who we are. And some of this will be language, well, a lot of this will be language from R365, and just really a quick kind of, we live out faith, hope, and love in our community, and hopefully from that they can gather that we're a church. And so we will be expanding this into our language a lot more. We will be expanding this into our framework, into how we create vision, how we do strategy, how we plan on a weekday, how we plan our youth groups, how we plan our kids groups, how we plan young adult stuff. Like, this will be our framework for doing that going forward.
People are going to hear this stuff around. You're going to hear these words more, but you're also going to hear these sentences more, and then you'll hear more beyond that. But our idea is that rather than asking everyone to understand a full paragraph or something on this, which that stuff exists and will be around, but actually we felt that a sentence was better for each word, because that's a bit more memorable, we can understand that a bit better, it's a bit more accessible for people who are coming in, who are encountering us for the first time, but it's also probably a bit more accessible for those of us who are in once a week or whatever on a Sunday. Or so these sentences, hopefully, they are not the fullness of the value, but they're an expression of the value that gets to the core of what the value is about.
And the next bit is the vision statements. Again, these are not new. The first bit is always a bit missed, and I just want to highlight the importance of that bit. By God's Spirit and working in partnership, we are committed to these 5 things. I just want to highlight that because, for one, it is missed sometimes when we express our vision statements. But 2, some of our reframing around who we are and what we do, we are actually going to be a lot more intentional with the partnerships we create and the partnerships we invest in and the partnerships we're a part of. So expect to see some more of that, expect to see some more stories on a Sunday, expect to see some more communication around who we work with and who we are a part of as a wider, global church, because that's really important as part of this.
And I think one of the aspects of this as well is maybe for this vision statement isn't just about those who gather on a Sunday. These vision statements are about everything we do. And so we're where maybe historically any different department, it could be the kids' work or the Y4F or whatever, might have some of their own statements or some of their own values. We're kind of going, no, everything fits within this. And so it's really important that we talk about by God's Spirit and working in partnership, because that's just as important to how Y4F works as it is to how we gather on a Sunday, as it is to how we do our youth work on a Friday night. It's that we're doing this empowered by the Spirit, and we're doing this in partnership, is a really significant characteristics across everything we do.
Cool. So hopefully those 3 slides won't be particularly new to people. What the expansion of this is, and like Adam said, is discipleship. So we are being really, really intentional with people, essentially. We're being really, really intentional in how this fits into the everyday YCC life of every single person who experiences us. And that comes down to the blood donors who visit during the week, to person who is here every Sunday serving and being a massive part of our congregation. So we literally want to be able to look at every single person. And obviously, we won't be able to look at every single person, but as in, we want to be able to do that. We don't have the capacity to do that quite yet, but we want to be able to look at every single person and go, what does the next look like? Where are you sat? What does the next look like? Where's your next discipleship step? What are we investing into people? What are we investing people into on a Sunday? What are we investing in life groups? What are we investing into ID courses? How are we actually bringing people to their next step? And how do they move forward as part of our family?
Yeah, because discipleship is really, really key. Renewal is really exciting. Seeing new people come in every week is really exciting. Seeing dramatic stories of transformation and salvation are really exciting and really encouraging to those of us who've been Christians for a long time, part of the church for a long time. Those things are really exciting and really encouraging. But I had a picture, or a sense of a picture, of a tide coming in on a beach. Like the wave would come in and then it would retract and the water would kind of gather again, and then the next wave would come in and it would go a little bit further and then it would retract, and the more the waves did this, the higher up the beach the tide would come. And if that sort of first wave is all these exciting stories of new people coming in and new people having encounters and coming to faith, and that's great. But I also felt that as that water retreated and gathered again and deepened slightly, what that signified was those of us who maybe been part of the church for a long time going deeper, our faith going deeper. It wasn't just about we're really excited about the renewal that's happening in all these new people, but actually renewal's happening in us too. We're going deeper God's stirring us, whether that's our passion for Jesus, our passion for Scripture, our passion for life, the way we do that together in community, like life choices we're making, whatever it be, like our love of the habits of reading Scripture and praying and worshiping and fasting and all those habits that we have as well. And so as that water gathers back, that's us all going deeper in our faith, which then empowers and enables the next wave to come of new people discovering faith, having encounters, being transformed, and then it gathers again. So there's this rhythm of new people coming to faith, but also those of us who have been in the faith for a while being discipled, and then those new people gathering and being discipled too. And so it feels like discipleship is a really key strategic tool, a real strategic focus for us if we want to see this, what I would regard as maybe the early stages of this wider quiet revival which people talk about, or renewal that we're seeing going on around the country. The way we perpetuate that is actually through discipleship, rather than just celebrating these moments. Again, if we don't disciple those people, but also if we're not more discipled ourselves. And so it feels like discipleship as a focus is a really strategic focus that will fuel and perpetuate and develop and increase that renewal that we've started to see.
Yeah. And so some of you might be sat there thinking, like, what does that actually mean? What practical things is going to change? What, like, when you come on a Sunday, or what you're hearing from us, what will actually change? And just like a little snapshot is we're looking really intentional about a discipleship calendar. So what happens every year to feed into different people in the church? What are we doing in our ID courses? Like, how do we framework that around our 365? What are we sensing people really need to hear and learn, and how, like, move forward in? How do we sow into leadership? That's a really key one that we're looking into quite significantly, is how do we bring up the next generation of leaders, or people leading in their own context? How do we enable people to lead in their own context? And how do we enable people, like we say, we're getting new people all the time. That requires a really healthy church community to bring those people inwards and upwards, and then to sow again. So we're being really intentional in a few different spaces, and I'm hoping that will really come out in later this year and into what we're being intentional with. But yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, and then and it plays out in what does discipleship look like amongst kids' work, youth work, for families, for elderly, for men, for women, like for couple. Like we need to be thinking about all of these and making sure that as we put a calendar together for the year, that there's a healthy rhythm for all the different communities within the church. What's next? So, what's worth saying here is we're going to now invite up the different chairs of the different committees or sections of the board, of the trustee board. So we have finance, we have personnel, we have buildings. And however, you'll also notice historically where that's happened that I've had a conversation with each of those chairs, and we've talked about what's going on and tried to explain, and then we answer questions at the end. The reason Rosie's up here is because that one of the things, as we get a bigger church, how the board functions should change slightly. And Rosie coming into role means that, and this is how it should be, means that actually for each of those areas, Rosie is the best informed person, because she's on the ground leading those areas, and ultimately Rosie's reporting back to each of those department chairs on the board, and reporting back to the board. I report back to the board too. And so having Rosie up here is because this is Rosie's role as operations lead. It's Rosie's role to make sure the decisions that are made, whether that be by the leadership team, by trustees, in the different areas, are implemented, delivered, reported on, and explained. So it made no sense for me to have the conversations with Keith and with Malcolm and with Karen without Rosie being up here. So it's going to be a three-way conversation on each, and we're going to start with everyone's favourite subject, finance. Keith, come up.
It's on, yeah.
Yeah, so Keith, finance. How's it going?
Yeah, we're in a really good place at the moment, I think.
Excellent. Great. Keith, everyone. Yeah, let's work through the slides.
Yeah.
What's next? Yeah, so the finance team, Rosie obviously sits on the finance team alongside yourself and as from the trustees, and then Tricia is the one who delivers all the accounts. And how does this work?
Yeah. So basically, the finance committee hasn't changed in the last year. We just had a bit of a change of structure with Rosie coming into her role. So beforehand, Rosie was at the coalface dealing with the day-to-day stuff. And that hasn't really changed now that she's in role, because she's doing all of that and getting paid for it now, which is good.
But we still need that board oversight.
That's right, yeah.
Which is what you stepped into.
So just providing that accountability for Rosie, really. And and so far it seems to be working well. There's been some positive improvements in efficiencies, some better control of costs as a result, and as you'll see in a minute, the potential for the coffee shop to start making some money. Right. What is making money now, but to push that forward.
And that was some of the conversation that Rosie and I, when Rosie came into the team, some of the objectives that we started out with were coffee shop should be a big focus, and that had really come from the trustees going, we need to get this to the place we need it to be, and that was one of Rosie's targets. Also, just looking across all the various expenses of YCC and where are their savings, and I think we talked about maybe finding 5% to 10% savings. So we can have a look at that as well, hopefully. And so these were roles that were being driven by trustees and myself, but then Rosie's kind of stepping in to deliver. Yeah, so what's the next slide?
So
It's 2024.
we've gone forward to, here we are.
Okay.
So what does this mean?
Yeah, so the good news is that over the 2025 income increased, and good news is that expenditure decreased.
Yep.
We've got the total income there, restricted income, just to explain to everybody that the restricted income is the income that we have to use for specific purposes, like Y4F, the
so
roost.
it's grants that we get that have to be spent on specific things, or sometimes it's even gifts from people in the church who go, I'm giving to this particular
specific need.
Specific need.
Yeah. So
that just sits separately in the accounts, right? Because we can't touch that for anything else.
No, that's right. That's ring fenced.
Yeah.
And the positive is that we're showing a deficit for the last financial year, which is significantly lower than 2024. But when we actually look under when we take a closer look, the deficit we actually had a positive 2025. The deficit has occurred because of a financial and accounting procedure, which means that the depreciation on our assets has to come off of any money that that we have in surplus.
That's probably worth explaining. So it says here that we have a deficit of 8,000, but you're saying there was some calculation that has to be done to say our assets, whether that building, the things that are within the building, all the things that we have that are worth money, the sound desk or whatever else it might be.
Yes.
As an accounting procedure, we have to effectively write off.
But a portion of that value of those assets, so those assets depreciate over the course of many years. Rosie's probably better off as an accountant to explain that.
What sort of amount would we be, in a normal year, what sort of amount would we go, that's our depreciation of our assets?
Yeah, so it's different for different assets. So the building, even though the building doesn't actually go down we have to take it down in value every year, just as an accounting adjustment. So every year, I think it's about £8,000 just comes out as an expense in our accounts, even though we've spent no money. So essentially, if you take the building out of it, it's break even with
You don't have to
other
give that
depreciation.
8,021.
No.
We
No,
just have
it's
to.
just as an accounting adjustment, yeah.
Right. Okay.
And then the other assets, we're talking around 25k, I think, came off in terms of the money spent last year. So so in terms of this expenditure, out of the 970,000, about 30 to 35k is depreciation. So it's not money we've spent in that year. It's an accounting adjustment, which in turn makes we've actually had a cash surplus last year, not a cash deficit. So the cash is different to the accounting, which can be very confusing for anybody who doesn't do accounts.
I'm good with numbers, and I get confused by that every year. It raises so many questions. I'm going, well, anyway. But, this is even better than it looks, is what you're saying. Yeah.
The other side of that as well, in 2025, we actually budgeted a much larger deficit. So just in context, in 2024, we lost a huge amount of funding from YFRF. And at some point, we have anticipated our reserves going lower because we've lost loads of money. Last year, that didn't happen at all, and we ended up making money, which is just bonkers because that shouldn't happen. Like that, and that sounds like a weird scenario, but we anticipated a massive reduction in our reserves, and we actually ended up gaining money, which is just from I couldn't sit in my corporate setting previously and go, that makes sense. Like it just doesn't, which I think tells you a lot about who we are.
Yeah. So we've had a much better financial year than we had budgeted for. So we said we can afford to actually have a negative year, and we thought we would need to do that because of the various pressures on various things. And actually what resulted, even though we set out with that budget, we're tens of thousands better off.
Okay. The other side of that is we always budget on like the most pessimistic version of what we think is going to happen. So we never put in income into our budget that we think we might have. We only put in income that we're pretty much guaranteed. And we put over and above the expenditure that we think might happen. So our budgets always tend to look worse than the actual picture because we want to essentially prepare for the worst case scenario. And we also budget on an accounting basis. So we do put all the depreciation in there. So we don't budget on a cash basis, we budget on an accounting basis. So again, all my budget holders don't like conversations with me because I have to explain this every meeting we have.
A lot of work goes into setting a budget, doesn't it? Yeah. So great. So that's good news then. We're in a good place, like you said, Keith.
Absolutely.
So
this is a picture of our different funds that we have at the moment, and generally there isn't that much change over that 12-month period.
So what we're saying is at the end of 2025, we have 154,000 in our general account.
Yep.
Designated building asset cost is that doesn't
nominal
actually,
figure, yeah.
That's the thing that just keeps decreasing every year. And then we have a contingency fund. Is that in addition to the general and restricted?
Yeah.
We have a contingency fund because this is something we talked about a while ago, going, we need to be resistant to the sort of shock that comes if the council go bankrupt and can't put funding in, etc. We need to have more resistance to that. So we committed that we would build up a contingency fund. I think our ambition was over 3 to 4 years, we would try and get that to more like 80 to 90,000. Is that right?
So we've done a brief calculation on what that figure should be. We think it should take into account the risk factor from every scenario. This isn't actually far off where I think it probably should land, but it's not an exact science. So what I've tried to take into account is the risk factor of any single one of our income streams failing. So if the Roost funding failed, then that would cover a portion of period where we didn't have funding, or Y4F similar, Hub similar. If our donations just skyrocketed, if we had a major problem with the build, like it tries to take into account every single kind of possible scenario, because the likelihood of everything ending at once is zero. Like that just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So it's trying to take into account the risk factors from different scenarios and then going, where would we land if any one of these failed? And we think that's about right.
So that doesn't need to be significantly bigger, particularly in the next couple of years. But then our restricted funds are, well, here's money that happens to be in the account at the end of a year that has been maybe granted to us to deliver the family's work or the Roost work or the Welcome Hub or the whatever else, or is some money that has like legacy maybe from some money that was like, well, that's for international relationships or that's for building the costs that might come up.
And just a point on the restricted fund, it actually looks quite high because we have to spend that money on certain things. So the unrestricted, we get to pick and choose what we spend it on. The restricted stuff we have to spend. What always happens is we get quite a lot of the funding on the 1st of January. So we get implements like during the, we get payments during the year. A lot of them land on the 1st of January, which is a bank holiday, so it always lands in December. So that fund is always slightly inflated at the end of the year, and obviously this is just one day in time. These change daily because things happen daily. We spend money daily or get income daily. So this is literally a snapshot at 31st of December 2025. Those were the figures. But
important to understand.
Yeah.
But it's a healthy looking balance sheet, and if we think where we were a year, 2 years earlier, this is very encouraging, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent.
So this was just something that we put together just to highlight some of the cost savings and efficiencies that have come into play since Rosie's been working with Tricia, and there's a lot more control over subscriptions, consultancy costs. We decided to buy printers rather than lease them. So over the long term, that will be a bit of a financial win.
For 5 years, that saves us over £4,000.
Yeah, so there's lots of small wins there, but over the long term, it's quite meaningful.
Next to the 9,000.
So squiggly lines just means like circa. It's just like an estimate.
Okay.
Because like printer costs, it depends how much we print to how much we save.
So that would be 4,000 plus that, so that maybe 13,000 just saved on how we're doing.
13,000 we think over 5 years, yeah.
We think we're saving over 5 years, which is really good. Subscriptions, I know you have sat with every team leader and gone through every subscription we have for everything, and everyone really loved those conversations. But the benefit is that we've saved, over 5 years, we're going to save £38,000. So that was very effective work to do, right?
And Joe's pleased me this week because he's actually added more to that. So, so I think it's probably another.
Added more in a good way.
Yeah, added
it's
more
just
in a
usually
good way.
Joe's the other way.
Yeah, Joe is normally in the other way.
Yeah.
But I think we've added probably another 4K to this year, which will obviously be like 20K over
which
5
would be another
years.
20K.
So another
over 5.
20K, yeah.
And then coffee shop. Is it worth talk about the coffee shop? What does that mean?
Yeah, so our coffee shop has been profitable since October now. So, yeah, we are making money every month. I think there's still stuff to work out in the coffee shop. I don't think it's a finished article. I think there's still room to grow and expand. But we've done probably the basics of what we need to do in the coffee shop. We've discussed all new prices with our suppliers. We've sorted out our staff costs a little bit. And we've introduced a breakfast menu. So we've done probably the very basic foundations of what I came in to do. I think there's so much we can do at the coffee shop, and I'm super excited about the next 12 to 18 months of the coffee shop because I've got so many ideas.
It's true, you're never happier than when you're in the coffee shop, are you?
I love the coffee shop. I absolutely love it. Yeah, it brings me great joy being in the coffee shop and just seeing all the people in there, and I genuinely love it. But when I came into this job, one of the things I said to you almost like day one is I think it can do both. I think it can be the perfect outreach and bring people in and give them a glimpse of who Jesus is, but I also think it can make money, and I'm hoping we're getting to that, we're moving in that direction.
And here we are.
Yeah.
So we think You're talking about making a 17,000 profit this year?
Profit this year, and then, yeah, I think...
And the coffee shop hasn't made a profit
Ever?
ever? I'm not,
As far as I'm aware.
someone might correct us on
Yeah.
ever, but certainly in the last decade it hasn't.
Yeah, Tricia can't think that it's made a profit in 15 years. So yeah,
That's quite a significant
this
shift,
is good,
isn't it?
yeah.
And that's all money that can
That will
go
just
back
go straight back into the pot, yeah.
into serving the community and all the things that we need to do, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, that's quite a lot of savings there over 5 years.
So with that, last year at the AGM, we introduced the thought of a trading subsidiary. We've had lots of conversations the last 6 months. We've had a Q&A. We've had some emails go out. I've had a lot of conversations about what that would look like. And I'm really pleased to say we've now got a trading subsidiary. The operational outworking of that, we still need to set up a bank account and all that kind of stuff. But it is established. Just as a really, really brief addition to hopefully what you've already seen in terms of we're doing this to save us more money essentially, so that we don't have to pay any tax. That's actually the primary reason. It won't change how we function. It's still led in a way that I just said, like our primary aim is to see Jesus as people walk into the doors. Like that's actually primary above profit. But
so it's a vehicle that allows that £17,000 profit to be channeled straight back into charitable work.
Yeah.
Of all the things we do as a church.
So we don't lose 25% of it.
Losing we're a business, so we should be paying 25% tax on the profit, and then that gets written off. So because we're a charity, we can set up this trading subsidiary that allows us to channel all that work back into charitable work. Yeah.
So, the trading subsidiary is wholly owned by the charity. We have, directors in place who is essentially me as staff, Rachel Dyer and Simon Collins at the moment. There will be one added at some point, but we just needed to get the ball rolling. And we're still in the process of getting all the contracts and stuff in place to enable all the legal stuff to happen. But it is in process.
And then the second thing here, it's just worth highlighting, right? Like, we have these contracts. In many ways, we've had very good conversations. The hub funding and the Roost funding. The hub funding is now, we guarantee 2 years funding. The hub funding is 3 years, I think. So we've now moved from every year we have to renegotiate the funding to a 2 year, which is expected to become a 4 year, just has a 2 year break clause in it, and a 3 year funding. So in that sense, we're in a much better position. However, Somerset Council continue to have issues, and so they were quite late with their payments.
So just recently, we've just had a cash flow issue from them in that some of our funding has just been significantly late.
Was that like month late, 6 weeks, 8 weeks?
One of them was 3 months,
right.
So significantly. We've been super blessed that we have the reserves in place. So some of our conversations now is like, what if we didn't? Because we've been super blessed that we've had the reserves and we've just carried on as normal. It actually hasn't affected anything.
So our teams, it hasn't been a blip at all.
Hasn't, yeah, we haven't even mentioned it to the staff team, I don't think.
No.
But I think because they told us it's not a problem, it will come, but we've been super blessed that we have those reserves in place and we haven't had a problem. I don't think we have a significant amount of money in an investment portfolio that just accumulates interest for us. So it's just, again, a way to make money without doing anything. And we didn't even have to dip into that. It was just from our main bank account. So we are super blessed in that way. I felt sorry for the people who potentially weren't, because there would have been lots of people
charities would not be able to survive a 3 month delay.
Yeah, 3 months is huge in some charities.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. Sarah, I'll move on to that. So Keith, anything you want to add, or how have you adjusted to the role? How's it been for you?
I suppose it's been business as normal, really, because Rosie's effectively doing what she was doing before, and I've just been asking the questions and just giving that oversight really to protect the charity.
Well, what you do is a really significant role, and we appreciate the time that all the trustees put in voluntarily. And, you know, yes, you've got your regular meetings, but also that it does require regular conversations and meetings between the two of you. I know all of the different trustees put in a lot of time and a lot of effort, and we really appreciate your time, but also the expertise that you bring into that, and the heart, because I think it's a particular challenge to sit as a trustee with the legal responsibility and also hold the heart of what we're trying to be as a church and as a charity. I think that's not always easy to hold those two intentions. So we do really appreciate everything you do. So thank you very much. Yeah. I think we're doing Q&A for everything at the end, unless you want, feel free.
Does
Are there any
anybody have
specific finance
immediate
questions that
finance
while we've got
questions?
Keith up here, you would like to ask?
Great, that's unheard of, but cool.
I'd take that as a win, Keith. Run, quick. Malcolm. Yeah, Malcolm is also someone who invests a huge amount of time into all the things that happen here as a church. And again, really appreciative of everything you bring. And Malcolm, you lead the personnel committee.
Yeah, so there's
Who are this? Travelling bunch.
yes.
in front of us.
At this precise moment, Vicky is, I think,
Australia,
I think, and Nigel, or who knows where Nigel
Arctic
is.
Circle, currently.
Oh, Arctic Circle, okay. Normally they're around, but they're both happen to be having extended periods of break at the moment. So, but that is the personnel committee. But I should.
Hi.
Hello, Nigel. Come back soon. All is forgiven.
Well, no, not everything's forgiven.
It's worth saying, however, that we are generally looking to strengthen our trustee board, and in particular, we are going to be inviting a new trustee to appoint a new trustee to join the personnel committee, and that's Helen Radford, who is over there.
Little wave. Thank you, Helen. Again, bringing...
Helen has been meeting with us for a little while as trustees to get so she knows what she's letting herself in for. She has some particular expertise in the area of HR, and we're really looking forward to that. There's a process to go through. We have to do all the checks and things. As I said to her beforehand, we just have to make sure she's not an axe murderer, but we're pretty confident she's not. So that's our personnel committee.
Again, she comes with a huge amount of skill.
She does.
Experience, so very appreciative.
There's some comments here on staff numbers, but before we get to that, can I just make one other comment more generally about staffing? If you remember the values that we put up, one of our values was relationship, about being created for community, and we commit to loving, serving, and encouraging one another every day. And I actually think we really strive to do that in terms of staffing. There is a lot of care for staff and staff well-being that goes on here. I'm not saying we get it perfectly right, but we really do work quite hard at that. And so I actually think the staff morale is really good. Rosie's really added to that by being always on the ground and always accessible. And leadership team who are on staff and around during the day are interacting with people. It does impact how we treat people when they're struggling. So I'm not going to go through a whole lot of sort of who's been sick and who hasn't been sick and whatever, but we try to take a very compassionate approach to that and sensitive approach on an individual basis. So, we try to live out our values in how we deal with our own staff here.
Yeah, so, I mean, staff numbers are lower. Coffee shop, up and down. But there, again, those are snapshots, aren't they? So
yeah, it might be helpful if
bit
I
up and
just
down.
explain a
Yeah.
little bit about that. So total staff has gone up slightly, but do bear in mind that these are not all. In fact, very few of them are full-time staff. Most of our staff work part-time to some degree or other. Also, in the way these numbers are laid out, if you look at the column that says YCC church-based roles, you'll notice that's gone down. That's actually simply because we've created another column called operational roles to try and make clear how many staff are we actually doing churchy ministry type things as opposed to practical on the ground things. So, for example, in that operational roles, we've got people like, well, Rosie's in that category, but so is Tricia, so is Ian Crow as our buildings manager, Dylan, our caretaker, and Caroline, our cleaner. So those are not ministry roles in the directly spiritual sense, although they're very important roles to us. And that's why there's that column there with 5 people in it who've moved across from what we would have previously been shown under church-based roles. Then the coffee shop, yes, there has been some ups and downs there, or some ups there, but that's largely due to new things that we're doing, including consistently opening on Sundays and working towards opening on Saturdays.
Yeah, watch the space.
Yeah.
Opening Saturdays. So you can have those breakfasts on a Saturday morning. Coming soon. Keep watching.
Yeah, and just to point on that, we haven't actually increased staff hours that much, but some of our staff who were working during the week were covering a lot of Sundays and doing kind of overtime on Sundays. They don't necessarily want to continue doing that. That was kind of an interim thing, and so now we've got staff specifically working on a Sunday, so the actual hours aren't different. It's just different people carrying out different roles.
And
so
it's been really, I think having the coffee shop open on a Sunday has been a really positive move. I think there's a number of people at the church who really appreciate that opportunity to maybe arrive a little sooner and have some breakfast or have a coffee and come in and do that networking. But also we do see people who might find walking into your auditorium a little daunting, feeling much more comfortable as a first step into community of going, well, I can come to the coffee shop, it's on the screen, I can hear what's going on in the auditorium, I can participate. So I think it does act as a connecting point for people. And I think the figures that we see on a Sunday have been going up. So it's a positive investment.
Okay, can we have the next slide? So this gives a quick snapshot of who's left and who's joined. And you'll see there's obviously quite a number of different people who've been working with us and have left, and those new people that we've employed. It's worth saying, I think, at this point, that many of those who have moved on from us, probably most of them, have moved on not because, in fact, I don't know anybody who's moved on because they're grumpy with us. It's because we can't always offer the number of hours that they need to support their families. And in one or two other cases, a career move.
Life changes.
Yeah, life changes. People. So don't think that just because somebody's left, that means there's a problem. No, some people were cheering them on as they've gone to a new role that's going to be even better for them. But we've also, yes, we've had people joining us. It's worth mentioning at this point, slightly close to my heart, Joe Nichols is going to be starting a phased return to work middle of next week.
Yeah.
Woo! Going to take that steadily and gradually as she builds up. And there is a slight, just for informational, there's a slight change of role there, which has been talked and discussed with her and with the staff that she relates with. She's going to become an assistant to our pastoral lead.
Yeah, so she's moving from the role she was, which was more around create and worship and like Sundays in that sense, and she's moving to filling some of that hole around our pastoral care and working alongside Lisa to develop that, which is part of our solution to the hole or holes that Keith
Yeah, I
left
think the
when he
challenge
moved on.
there is that Lisa is quite inevitably quite deeply involved in administration for the pastoral rather than merely just doing people
Yeah.
stuff. And she would love to do more people stuff, but that means that some of the
Well, I think, and there's so many
organisational-
new people coming along
Yeah,
that all need
exactly.
connecting with, that all need. So it's definitely an area that needed
Yeah.
more support, and I think we've had conversations with Jo for a little while about her shifting into that role. It's all really been about her return, a phased return to work, and so it has meant that Lisa's been a bit more stretched for a little bit of time than we would like, and that area's been a little bit more stretched than we would like, but I think we're moving to a good model and a good solution.
Yeah, there's one or two details there. I noticed we haven't actually recorded all of them. Powie, who was in our kitchen in the coffee shop, has also left.
Yeah.
But I was delighted to see her cooking Thai food for Matt Callahan's 60th birthday party last week. So,
Very talented.
yeah, so that's great.
Great. Yeah. So I mean, and there's always in this sized organisation,
Yeah.
there's flow of staff. Yeah.
Just a few things. You will know this stuff. It's not new, but Joe Hardy, who's gracing our front row over there, along with working heading up worship and creative ministries here, also works in a role in New Wine as heading up worship for New Wine. We're very happy to release Joe some of his time because that's who we are as a resource church. And New Wine are generously
Paying for that
supporting
time. Yep.
Joe, or paying YCC 1 day of Joe's time a week, which is great. And then in a somewhat similar situation, Adam, again, does not work 5 days a week or full time for YCC. He splits his time both leading the team here, but also as co-lead of Jesus Collective Network. We know a little bit more about Jesus Collective because you've heard us talk about it. You've met Megan Good, who was here a few months ago, and Adam's time is split 60-40, 60% YCC, 40% Jesus Collective, which I suspect involves quite a lot of out of hours and evening things because of the time zone.
Yeah. It means some strange times. So calls in the evening, sometimes in the middle of the night with Australia. So, but yeah, I think largely it works well. I'm here far more. There was a period when I was away, a decent percentage of the time. I'm here and I'm present far more, and that's been a conscious choice. I think that's helpful. So you will see me around here quite a lot, but sometimes when I'm here, I'm not just doing YCC work. Sometimes I'm doing Jesus Collective work as well.
Yeah, and just to reassure you, we are mindful of the stresses that some of that can bring, and we're seeking to walk with Adam carefully on that to try and make sure that balance is healthy for everybody. And then just to touch base a little bit with you all about salary matters. So in April this year, we implemented a general across-the-board wage increase for all of our staff of 85 pence an hour. Where did we get that number from, you ask? That is the, in pound terms, the change in the level of the real living wage. You'll remember probably that we have been committed thus far to paying the real living wage, which is not the same as the government living wage. It's more. And so the increase in that was 85 pence an hour for an adult. And we chose to implement that as a flat rate, money rate across all of our staff. The effect of that means that the differential between the highest and lowest doesn't change. in terms of hourly rate. So we implemented that from April this year. It is a challenge. There is no question about it. And looking ahead over the coming years, if the government carries on the way that it is going, that will be a problem because this year they significantly increased the employer's NIC contributions. That's what we as an employer have to pay, and also the threshold from which it has to be paid. That has created a substantial increase, and if that sort of level of increase were to be perpetuated, then sums would be quite substantial. I think that's fair to say, is it?
Yep.
Very fair, yeah. Yeah, just in terms of global cost, I think this year putting in that increase and the employer's national insurance, I think it increased our wage bill by about £32,000. So it's a jump,
Yeah,
like it's
it's
a
a
real
big
jump.
So, we'll keep that under review, but just giving you a heads up, that's quite a challenge if it persists in that, if the government's policy persists in that.
But it's
so
not a challenge this year.
It's not, no,
Right.
we coped this year.
No,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
fine this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all in the budget. We set our budget around November every year, and we already had this in mind. We already knew about the rates and stuff. So yeah, it's not on.
Okay.
So that's all I've got to say, but if people want to ask questions about personnel, please do.
Yeah. Any questions about any of that?
Quiet bunch tonight.
Great. Carry on,
I
Malcolm.
could do a runner. Thanks.
Karen. Building Assets Health and Safety Committee.
Yes.
I mean, it all sounds so exciting. So, what?
It's really
This is a
delicate.
big role, right? Because I mean, I know you might say, well, I think you would say that Rosie coming into role has relieved some of the pressure, but everything to do with the buildings, everything to do with health and safety, you were also safeguarding, right? Like those are massive areas that have lots of policies and processes and legislation and all that sort of stuff. It's a huge role, and you have served as a trustee for
32 years, I think, with Malcolm.
so since you're a teenager, you've since you're a teenager, then you've served as trustee. We're very appreciative of that. That's a huge amount of service, of which we're hugely grateful. And I think it's hard to describe quite the scale of this area, right? It just reaches into everything. So why don't we talk through some of the things that are going on and some of the shifts that are happening?
Yeah, so that's our team, and that's the thing. It isn't just me, all on my lonesome. I have this great team here, and where we meet regularly, but then also under that is this operational layer.
Yes.
So we wouldn't be able to do that if we didn't have like Ian and Tricia and Rosie, and also Lisa with the safeguarding. So it isn't down to me. It's there's a lot of people supporting this side of our.
If you are ever curious about the
charity.
extent of the legalities that have to be in place and the processes and the systems and the paperwork and the certificates and it is vast. So yeah, and like you say, you've got a good team.
Yeah, I mean the health and safety handbook's 107 pages, so a little bit of light reading. Okay. Yes, so we're very grateful for having our new caretaker, Dylan, and we obviously struck gold employing Rosie as our head of operations. And that is really good because it's been good, I think, to have fresh eyes, looking across the board at all the things that we're involved in. And Rosie's coming up with some, great ideas and things where we got a bit stuck with. She's been able to find ways, different ways to get around it. So we're very, very grateful.
Yeah.
very grateful for that. And then, do you want to talk about the grants you've submitted?
Yeah, so one of them is actually thanks to the Roost work. The government have essentially opened up a fund for, it's quite a sparse brief of funding, but essentially it had a whole capital element to it, and we have essentially applied to redo most of that side of the building. I think me and Bridget literally looked at it and went, yeah, we'll include that. Yeah, all the flooring can go in it. We'll put solar in it. We'll put like everything on that side of the building. We went, the Roost use it all, so we'll put it in. And so we're waiting to hear from that. And then we're then putting we've got 2 other grants kind of in progress. One of them is to do with just general, so essentially what we don't have, in terms of all the financy stuff we talked about, what we don't have is a massive pot to improve our building. That is something that we don't have loads of money to invest in.
And the building is old. And we, as a church, it was done up 26, 27 years ago, and then large parts of it haven't had... haven't been touched in 25 and haven't
years.
had necessarily the attention. So whether that's the windows that are in that part of the building, the coffee shop and the floor above, or they're single glazed, some of those still, and we need to move those to double or triple glazed. And there's all these sorts of things that the building is aged and things wear and tear. And
so one of the grants I've submitted is for like core costs. So essentially I'm hoping that it will take care of kind of our light and heating bills so that we can use that money to then invest in something else. So it's not essentially for the building, but we will use the savings we make from having that money to put into the building, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And then the second one is an accessibility grant. So I've essentially started conversations with Adam, and we're going to try and get the National Lottery involved, but we've essentially drafted around 150 grand grant to make our building much more accessible to everyone.
Which means access to the upper floors, which means doors, maybe automatic doors. It's that sort of thing that means that people can access, because that has always been one of our restricting factors. And I know it's not up there, but also one of our big risks at the moment is the boiler, right? So, and it's not a cheap thing to solve, right?
Yeah, and so we're looking at ways around that. We're looking at essentially we had a proposal back today for solar panels, and so we think that's the direction we're heading in, and we think probably we'll start that process by the end of this year.
Okay, because the boiler, if they need replacing, they don't make parts for that anymore. They don't make and then that's a big. So we need to figure out whether we're going boiler or other source. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then just the final part, just being a massive thank you to everybody involved in Spruce Up Saturday. It was huge. We did some really, really important stuff on the day and just got us kind of kick-started into what we want to do in the building, which has meant that Ian's to-do list has now got very, very big, because I've now gone, well, we've started now, we have to carry on going. Ian's to-do list is now, Ian's to-do list is now huge. But we are working through it quite at a pace that is hopefully manageable.
Yeah. Excellent. So next slide.
So this is just an insight. These aren't absolutes, but this is just an insight into kind of what we're thinking. So Q1, we did a bit of a coffee shop refresh. We replaced gutters. We did some pat training. We upgraded our phone system and got printer replacements. Q2, we focused on the shower room for the Roost, picnic tables outside. The reception revamp will be a part of this quarter. Double glazing and windows upgrade in the coffee shop. Pat testing rather than the training, and the solar panel survey, which has obviously moved forward today.
Yeah.
Quarter 3, we're looking at redoing all the lines in our car park because at the moment you can't see them when it rains. We're going to create a smoking area. We're going to replace some equipment around the building and some accessibility surveys, reviews and proposals. Some of that has actually been done in Quarter 2. Well, a lot of that's been done in Quarter 2. So, but we think we'll actually implement it in Quarter 3, Quarter 4. And then Quarter 4 and 2027 projects will be around flooring because a lot of our flooring is 25 years old. So that's a big area that we're looking to, redo, and we're just looking at ways to do that because that will cost a lot of money. So it's trying to find the money that's going to do that. And then the renewable energy proposal and funding applications for that. Although that's the outworking of that, of what we found out more recently, is actually that might be way more straightforward than we thought it might be, because the amount we'd save in terms of our electricity bill will essentially potentially go into a finance agreement, which will essentially cost us no money because the amount we'd save in electricity bills will just pay for the solar panels. So we think that might be the way forward, in that it actually won't actually cost us any more money than what we're paying now, but we'll pay it off in 4 years, and then essentially we'll save money from that point. So,
if you can find a way of making energy reusable, then we're going to be great. I think we can make a lot of money out of that. So, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of this year is about kind of preparing for the bigger stuff. So the accessibility stuff, the renewable energy stuff, the flooring, actually like fairly big projects. They're stuff that is going to cause disruption. They're stuff that's going to make quite a big impact to our day-to-day. So a lot of the first quarter is kind of just getting some of the easy stuff out of the way, and then we'll put some focus into some bigger stuff.
The main thing, though, here is that these issues aren't new. We've known about the windows for a while. We've known about the flooring for a while. We've known about the need to find a way of making solar, like, all these things aren't new. I think what's really positive is we have a plan that is laid out, and we're progressing through the plan, and we're delivering, and we're finding solutions, and we're finding funding to make these things achievable. And I think the building and the people we serve will be better off for it.
Yeah, and it's necessary, isn't it? Because it's a very, very used building. You know, morning, afternoon, evening, weekends. It's just so used so much that there will be wear and tear.
Absolutely.
So just going back, so some of the stuff we did in 2025, we did a sound desk upgrade, a lighting upgrade, a PA upgrade, a server migration, which is just fancy language for upgrading our server, and fixed wiring remedial work again. So some of the stuff we did last year was around worship and production, and on that, if the question is, like, why have you spent it on that rather than some of the building stuff, we were given some very, very specific funding to be able to do that, which we couldn't spend on anything else because we've spoken about how we have a legal obligation to spend the money on them.
It is worth saying that Joe had been talking for a while about needing to upgrade the lights, and you might notice that however many months ago it was that we got new lights, and they can all move, and they can all... and that came out of a relational, because partnership's important, relationships are important, and we ended up having a conversation because we know the guys over at Hillsong in London, and we were chatting to them. I think Joe was chatting to them one day, and they were like, "Oh, we're doing a whole new lighting refit for their huge auditorium and whatever," and Joe was like, "Oh, really? What are you doing with your old lights?" They were like, "I don't know. Do you want them?" Joe was like, "Well, it depends." Oh, it was Donish, was it? And I think we get the lights for like £5,000 or something, but like, yeah, I don't know what they would be worth if we bought, but like, yeah, it's a ridiculous price for that sort of. So that was just an opportunity that we had at a particular time that it would have been really stupid not to say yes to. So we were, an amazing opportunity. So yeah, Donish working working that out for us. That was amazing. And yeah, like we said, there was a gift that came in for sound desk, etc. So again, we were able to prioritize that, and that's been really helpful. So what does this mean? 26, 27 is about easy wins and preparation, and 27, 28 is about investment. What does that mean, Rosie?
Yeah, so a lot of that was on the last slide. Like I say, we've picked up some of the just like easy things to just get sorted, and some of the stuff was more urgent than others. And so we've just tried to get the kind of quick wins that we needed to do. And then the next stage of that is about preparation and being ready for if funding comes in, like what are the proposals, what do we actually want? Because some of that work actually needs to be done. Like we've applied for funding, but we don't actually have the solutions sorted or scoped out, or so.
Be a lot of work if that comes in.
Yeah, so we need to do a lot of the preparation work with the anticipation that we're going to get funding at some point. So even if we do the preparation work, but it doesn't happen until 2028, we know exactly what direction we're heading in.
So the building's one area of your responsibility, Karen, but also safeguarding's another.
Yeah, so we obviously have a safeguarding team, and we use My Concern for all our safeguarding concerns. And so the numbers have gone up a bit, but that's, I think, partly as a result of YFRF embedding in their new way of working with families. And so, they have gone up, the concerns have increased again, because they obviously reduced when they stopped the previous families' work. So, but that just that's not a concern. It just shows that we're very vigilant. The teams, with their safeguarding training and everything.
That's almost one disclosure a day.
Yeah.
Across the year. So that's one new disclosure every day, and then you've got all the ongoing. Those run for a long time for some of them, and that's a lot of work that our safeguarding team do.
Yeah,
which is
so
Lisa's
good.
head of safeguarding.
Lisa's our safeguarding lead, and then we have deputies.
And how many deputies do we have?
So I think there'll be a slide.
Oh, there's a slide for that. Okay, we're coming to that.
So you can see all their lovely faces. Yeah, so we're very fortunate. We've got very experienced, lead and deputies, and they take really good care, of.
And our carbon footprint's down.
Yes, which is good, considering, we've probably spent more.
Do we know why?
Actually, some of that was travel, because like YFRF don't travel quite as much, they were going out to visit the clients, whereas a lot of the clients are coming to us. So definitely travel, that has reduced. That was one of those, wasn't it? One of our main ones. And I think energy wasn't much different to the last year, but it gets the solar panels in, and we'll see a difference. Yeah. Yes, that's the main things, isn't it? Yes, that's our
so this is
lovely
a safeguarding team.
Yeah. They've got Keith on there, but he's not on there, so apologies for that. We didn't check that one. Yeah, so Sim and Meg are all
so
trained.
we've lost Keith from this team, but we're adding in Sim and Meg.
Yeah, so apologies, that's not quite right. I didn't check that. So.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Karen, are there any specific questions around what you've just heard with Karen before we move on to general questions? Again, no. You guys have done such an amazing job.
Explaining everything.
All the questions people arrived with, they've gone, oh no, it's great. All answered. That's great. Thank you, Karen.
Okay.
We have some pre-questions, don't we?
Yeah, we have had some questions in. Here's our esteemed chair of the board.
Evening, everybody.
So, we've had some questions in, which you can get to, and also there may well be questions from the floor. The questions that came in.
Why have we not directly replaced Keith?
Yeah. I think so much to be excited about Keith's story and moving on and returning, so much restoration around that was great, but actually the hole that he left here, less easy for us to solve. And we talked about it at length around the best way to solve it. And some of the challenges with that were that we don't tend to create roles for people, but that was a very Keith-shaped role that has some very specific aspects to it. And so replacing Keith with his particular set of skills, his depth of relationship, like he didn't come into the role and like join the church. Like there were years of relationship that were in place, and then also a few years of being employed here in another capacity before he stepped into that role. And so bringing somebody in to that role that would fill the role in the way that Keith filled the role seemed a hard thing to achieve, particularly with the length of relationship that he had with people. And so where we landed was that we would assess the various aspects of what Keith did, because it was also multifaceted, what Keith did. And so we would assess the various aspects and see how we could solve those aspects in different ways. And a lot of work's gone into that. You've seen that Joe Nichols is coming in and stepping into a significant aspect of that role in that pastoral support or support to the pastoral lead, I think, and that has been a felt gap, but it also felt like Joe Nichols was the right person for that role, and so we understood that waiting for her to be able to return to work was important. Which meant there has been some strain in the meantime, and we've looked at different ways that we've been able to solve that. There are other aspects of the role, like things like running specific courses, whether that's the Alpha course or some of those courses that he ran, various people that he visited, particularly the elderly members of the church that he visited. And what we've actually done is looked at each of those individual people and worked with Keith before he left to find solutions of who those people might be, whether they be people who are employed by us, whether that be people who are part of the church and would continue to support that in a voluntary capacity. So we went through every single individual and looked at what the right solution was for them as an individual from the church team and community. And we continue to assess that because, okay, that's great for those people who Keith was supporting, but then as new people come into that situation and need a bit more support, how are we responding to that? And that's something that Lisa holds, and she holds very well, I think, very responsibly, and continues to have conversations. There is a team that she has built up who support visiting, and so then if people are sick, etc., then there are people that she can call on. But we're also quite keen that we didn't find ourselves going too far down the road of professionalizing all our pastoral care. We're a church, we're a community. There's so many commands in the scriptures about love one another, bless one another, encourage one another, support one another, serve one another. And actually some of how we need to be as churches, that this is done within the community. And so we're coordinating that, we're facilitating that, we're equipping that, but we're not necessarily employing all of that. Some of that is done by employed people, but not all of that. It was the Thursday afternoon gathering, again, for elderly community that Keith was involved in, and we found, and other people have picked that up, taken that on. Lisa is very involved in that, but there's other members of the team as well. And so we've looked at how can we build team around the different areas. And then there is that role that Keith did, which was that more like just being present around the building. So if people needed someone to talk to, if they had need to lean on someone, or just come in and get some support or a listening ear. And again, I know Steve Gaylord stepped into filling some of those roles, and again, there's a team which Lisa has been building around that. So we're able to continue to provide that presence. And then there's aspects of the role which Jo Nichols, as she works her way back in, is also going to step in and fill up and fill that role. I think Jo's role ultimately, when she's fully back, will be about 20 hours, 24, something like that. So that's a significant response, and for us to kind of say we're repurposing that role into this pastoral support, it's a very conscious decision, but I also think really plays into Jo's strengths and enables, and I'm really excited about her stepping into that role, because I think she has a real skill set that lends itself to working alongside Lisa and supporting in that area. For those who asked that question, is that a helpful answer, or is there pushback or more detail that you'd like on that? I don't know who asked the question, so I'm not sure who I'm looking at. But okay, great. No one's coming back at this. So, what were the other questions that came through?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we had quite a few emails, so thank you to the people that did some. I think some are here tonight, some couldn't be here tonight, so they might be watching online, but yeah, it's super helpful.
Shouting at their screen.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, no, thanks, Adam. I think, thank you for the way you've talked through that. I mean, I think probably the simple point I'd make is we've got a greater pastoral need than we had a year ago and 3 years ago and 5 years ago, and we try to resource that in many different ways, and we will try to make sure that nobody is left without that pastoral need. So we will keep moving the shape to fit that, and some of that will be through paid and roles, and some of that would be through volunteers. So, but we certainly we knew that Keith, yeah, was definitely going to leave. Yeah, there was a lot he did, and we want to make sure we pick up on as much of that as possible, whilst also knowing we've got our overheads and our resources against lots of other stuff we're trying to do as well. So there were some really encouraging emails. Thank you for those. There was actually, you mentioned the money that had been invested in the sound desk. There was appreciation for Jo and the sound team, Donage. Thank you so much for the quality of sound on our Sunday mornings. There was a couple of emails, just general thanks to the trustees and how they give their time, which I would completely echo, so thank you for that. So yeah, a few questions about Keith, actually. That was a popular one. There were a couple of questions which I'll probably chat to Jo and the Sunday morning team around people wanting to the words that go up on the screen. Could we have potentially more words rather than 2 lines at a time? I suppose volume came up, as it sometimes does, and obviously that's something we're trying to get right for everyone. So, okay.
Do you want to answer that, Jo? Talk about volume and words and on the screen and.
I think just to say that's a brilliant example that one email says thank you so much for the sound that's gone on.
Exactly.
Another email says too loud. Every given Sunday I'll have someone come and say to me, thank you so much for this morning, sound was amazing. I'll have someone else come to me and say it was too loud. I'll have someone walk up to me and say there's not enough lines on the screen. Someone else will say to me, why is there graphics on the screen? I don't like pictures. And someone else will say, thank you so much for the pictures of the mountains. It really led me into worship today. This is a very difficult, I was going to say thankless task, but you have actually just said thank you. What I would say is, please do make more of an effort to go and encourage and thank our production team, because that's just one taster on any given Sunday. I'll walk off stage and I'll be blasted with negativity. So it is difficult because this stuff is subjective. What I would say is what we're aiming for with worship is our vision here is to be a space where people wholeheartedly worship, deeply experience, and clearly know God. So we have to try and create an environment where people are able to encounter God together. Sometimes we get that right. Sometimes we get that wrong. We're trying our best always to serve this congregation the best we can. If we've got it wrong and we've upset you on a Sunday morning, then we've missed the point, because we're trying to create a space where people can encounter God. There is a quote that's attributed to Banksy. It wasn't Banksy, but it is often referred to him, that says, "Art should comfort the disturbed and should disturb the comfortable." I believe that worship should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. And I mean that in the most polite way possible. But what I mean is when we turn up to church on a Sunday morning, actually we should come ready to be disrupted by God. So actually our role is to create a safe and not disrupted by Joe doing something annoying, but we should be trying to create and facilitate a space where we are able to be disrupted by what the Lord wants to do. So what we're always trying to do is to create an environment where God can do that. I'm aware sometimes we get that right and sometimes we get that wrong. And like I say, some people like 2 lines, some people like 8 lines. One of the reasons why we do 2 lines is also because we are splitting our visuals live to go to our live stream. And we still have 200 people who join us live every week, and we're still beaming out to other places. So because of that, we have 2 lines in the middle of the screen here and 2 lines on the bottom of the screen on the live stream, if that helps you understand technically why we're doing 2 lines. But I also hear that we should be trying to get a little bit faster on changing our lines as well. I get a lot of feedback. Tell me nice things about me sometimes. That would also be nice. Thank you. No, I don't need that. Sorry.
I'll think of something, Joe, and I'll come back to you. Yeah, it's different. I mean, on the volume thing, again, we get both, and this is great, and this is loud, and I mean, I know it doesn't solve the whole thing, but actually, different parts of the room experience the sound differently. And so, so also try moving around the room to go, oh, here it sounds all right, here it's better, or if it's problematic for you. And it's also one of the reasons, I know it's not ideal, but it's one of the reasons why having the coffee shop open and being able to access, it might be you going, well, actually I'll access if the music volume, particularly maybe in the first section and the kids are in and we're doing the praise welcome sort of thing, going, well, then I'll access that in the coffee shop where the volume can be controlled, and then I'll come in and join for the next set of worship or the teaching and the response, etc. Like there are ways we can access. I know that all that's not ideal, but we're also trying to create ways that we can accommodate each other within all of this. Yes, there's a question from Hannah.
Yeah, sorry. While you're talking about accessibility, is there any plans for the future to think about people who have SEND or
Yes,
like things like that, who the room's too much and even the coffee shop could be too much? Like, what are you thinking for the future? I'd love to hear it and get excited about it.
So at the moment, we're still in kind of a research stage. So I hope she won't mind me knowing her, but I had Anna Pete in here for 2 hours a couple of weeks ago, her brief when I said, come in for a coffee and tell me everything that's wrong with the building. And so I'm having those type of conversations for people who have actually lived experience of they might struggle to get in the room, or they might struggle with the sound, or so I'm trying to hear a bunch of opinions on our building. And actually I'm searching for negative ones, because I think if I don't hear the things that people are struggling, I'm never going to be able to actually make our building an accessible space. So I'm actually having a lot of conversations with different people. Anna's a great one because she's worked in an SEN school and she has mobility issues. So she was a really key person that I really wanted to speak to because she speaks into a whole bunch of areas. But if you have thoughts and ideas, I'd actually love to hear from anybody. But there's a bunch of stuff that we've put as the part of the accessibility grant. So little things like we want to replace all our signs with pictures and words, because that's really helpful for people with SEN. So there's a bunch of people there's a bunch of things that we are looking into as part of the accessibility grant. But at the moment, that accessibility grant isn't stuck in stone. But we're still in a research stage to try and fit as much into that grant as possible.
Thanks, Rosie. Thank you for the question. And then, yeah, just a couple more. We had, I don't know if we want to answer these now, or just take these away as helpful suggestions, but a couple of emails around where we used to have a more regular prayer slot, and that we've had a bit less of that recently with some of the other priorities we've had on a Sunday morning, and where we used to do communion a bit more regularly. And again, we've had other priorities. So just I mean,
so the communion, we've actually consciously been working that back in, so it should be happening about once a month now. We don't always nail that exactly once a month, but that was a decision made 3 or 4 months ago. We'd lost the rhythm of communion. We're trying to pull that back. Prayer isn't that we're going, oh, we're done with prayer, no more prayer. We're just doing it, where we were doing it a particular way, where we would always make 5 minutes for someone to come up and lead prayer in a particular way. When it's not that does never happen, but there's different ways we're doing prayer. So sometimes it will be led by the worship leader as part of a... so we're conscious of it, but it's helpful feedback, because if that's something that people are feeling means we're missing something, that's helpful for us to hear, because then we can be better.
And then the only other one was around car parking, which I know we've often talked about a lot. Obviously, more car parking spaces cost money. But yeah, just a question of, things are always pretty tight out there, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think, so as part of the car parking lines, we're looking into potentially different layouts and things like that, just to try and utilise the space potentially a little bit better, but the space is small. We are also in conversation with the council about this green area here. Because at the moment it is just wasted space. So we are in conversations with the council at the moment about turning all of this area into spaces. We think it would turn into kind of 12 to 15 extra spaces, but we're just going through that process at the moment. We have had conversations with people around the area about what it might look like to rent or borrow some land, or those haven't come to fruition yet. We've tried and they just haven't really gone anywhere. But we will keep trying. We realise it's a problem. We are limited on options. That's the reality.
Yeah, we are actively, every time an opportunity comes up or a possibility comes up, we actively pursue it with energy. I mean, the site next door has been sold to another car dealership. So our understanding is that that's not going to be an option, but we will build relationship when they start in September, and we will continue to explore. I think this area of land here is our best option to add 12 to 15 spaces is significant. That's not nothing. It's a good step forward. It isn't going to eradicate the problems entirely, and we really appreciate people being able to park in Stars Lane. We don't know if that's going to remain to be free on Sundays or not. We are speaking very clearly to the council about the importance of that remaining free on Sundays. We are making our views very well known in that area as well. Is that everything, Rob?
So that was all the questions that we had on email. Are there any more questions from the room, please? I'm going to take that as a wrap then, in which case.
I hope that's an encouraging wrap as well. I really hope you're as encouraged and hopeful about where we're headed as a church and about who we are as a church. I do think this church is extraordinary. The the life that we see, the welcome people receive, the love that is displayed for the community, the way we adapt and adjust, and the way that so many of you go with change again and again, and the next time, and it's going to change again, and you're going, okay, great, let's go with it. And that's not normal in a lot of churches. So it is a real pleasure and a privilege to be on this journey with you all. And I do really believe this is an extraordinary church and extraordinary group of people. So thank you.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Thank you for the questions that we received in advance as well. Super helpful. We love the engagement. We want this to always be a conversation, so thank you so much. I'd like to say a massive thank you to the trustees, because they do give a huge amount of time, a huge amount of care, a huge amount of attention, some occasional sleepless nights over worrying things. They really do live and breathe this place, so just a massive thank you to the trustees who give their time to bring that governance, to be that critical friend, to ask the difficult question, to journey stuff, to help out, to chip in, all those things. So yeah, a massive thank you to the trustees, because it really is appreciated. And obviously a massive thank you to the YCC staff and everyone who makes YCC happen every day. And, you know, the summation of everything you've seen tonight, all of those individuals, again, you know, as you say, when you point out you get one safeguarding situation every day, that in itself is obviously a huge amount of duty of care and work that goes into that. I am incredibly proud to be the chair of trustees here. I think we've got a bunch of fantastic people working really, really hard to not only make this an amazing place, but to bring Jesus to the streets. And as I think we've heard a few times tonight, give people a glimpse of Jesus. And I think that's an amazing thing to be a part of. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone. I think, Adam, you're just going to close us in prayer, aren't you?
Yeah, I think it's important for us to pray when we gather. So, yeah, Lord, we want to give thanks for all the blessings that you give us. We want to give thanks for the blessings of being able to see and experience and participate in stories of transformation and renewal. We want to give thanks for the financial blessings and the ways in which people give sacrificially and generously and abundantly. I want to thank you for the relationships that we have with agencies and council and other churches and national network and international network. I want to thank you for a staff team who show up every day and live out these values and live out these visions and serve the community so faithfully and consistently. I want to thank you for all the people who pray consistently for this church and the leadership team and the community all around. I want to give thanks for all the ways in which we see your kingdom emerging and popping up in people's lives, in people's families, in people's neighborhoods, in people's communities. And I want to thank you that you've called each and every one of us to be part of this community, this family, this church called YCC. Lord, we thank you for the blessing, and teach us to continue to be conduits of your blessing in all the ways that we can imagine and understand. May you continue to bless us. May you continue to bless the community around us through us. And may your kingdom come. May your will be done right here as it is in heaven. Amen. Amen. Thank you, people. Stick around. I think there's tea and coffee and something. Lisa's waving something back there. So, yeah, stick around.